There are some amazing tracks on the Formula One calendar. Spa, Singapore, Sochi. Okay, maybe not Sochi, but there are also hundreds of fantastic tracks that aren't visited by F1. I know that because when we asked for the best track not visited by F1, we got hundreds of responses. I broke out a spreadsheet and sorted through the numbers, and here are the top 10 best tracks not on the 2019 F1 calendar as picked by fans. Now, before we begin, I want to say that we weren't necessarily looking for tracks that are suitable for F1. In fact, many of the best tracks in the world would no longer be the best tracks in the world if they were suitable for F1. So this isn't necessarily a list of tracks F1 should be visiting, but a list of circuits that are just amazing. Right, in at number 10 is Brands Hatch. The Brands Hatch Grand Prix circuit is often considered one of the best circuits in the UK. In my humble opinion, that honour goes to Knock Hill, but Brands Hatch is probably up there. The short Indy part of the circuit is in a natural amphitheatre, which means fans often look down on the circuit and provides the epic downhill Paddock Hill bend. Then the circuit sweeps uphill to the GP loop, the main part of the circuit where top speeds can be reached. The circuit hosted Formula One between 1964 and 1986, sharing duties with Silverstone, so it held the British GP every other year. But from 1987 onwards, Silverstone became the sole host, and F1 hasn't returned since. Noise restrictions mean racing on the GP loop is limited to just a few events a year, but if there are any Brits watching, you should definitely visit Brands Hatch at least once. And number 9, the Algarve International Circuit in Portugal. Algarve, or the Portimao Circuit, is a relatively new track, hosting its very first race in 2008, but since then it's hosted GP2, A1GP, the World Touring Car Championship, European Le Mans Series and F1 testing. It's an undulating circuit with big downhill slopes and, as Earl Bammer said, it kind of resembles the more old school circuits like Spa. So far it's not held a Formula 1 race, but Max Mosley said back in 2009 that it could potentially host a Portuguese Grand Prix, so there is hope. At number 8 is a classic circuit, Le Mans. Le Mans hardly needs an introduction. The circuit hosts the biggest challenge in endurance racing and possibly racing as a whole, as well as a number of other races including the French Motorcycle Grand Prix. The track opened way back in 1923 but has had a lot of changes over the year, mostly down to safety concerns as cars got faster. It was a valid concern as countless drivers and spectators have died at the circuit. The 1955 disaster alone killed 84 people, and led to the motorsport being banned in a number of countries, including Switzerland, which still upholds the ban to this day. But the circuit remains amazing, and the 24-hour race continues to draw audiences and big names, and I doubt that will stop anytime soon. In at number 7 is another classic, Nürburgring. Now this is a little more difficult as there were some votes for the Grand Prix track, some for Nordschleife, and some that didn't specify, so I just lumped it all in together. I think the Nürburgring is one of those circuits that's in most motorsport enthusiasts' top 10. It's steeped in history, from pre-war races like the 1935 Grand Prix, where Tazio Nuvolari showed up the Germans, to the post-war era with Fangio, Moss and Stewart, to the 1976 accident that almost cost Niki Lauda his life, to Stewart Racing's only F1 win in 1999, and that's just Formula 1 and its predecessor. The Nürburgring still hosts sports cars and endurance races, and hosted Formula 1 as recently as 2013, but has fallen out of favour with the F1 gods. It's still a superb track, and I think it's one that will always be remembered as a home for racing. At number 6, the Sepang International Circuit. Sepang has only just left the Formula 1 calendar, having hosted the Malaysian Grand Prix from 1999 all the way to 2017, and is one that it appears quite a lot of you guys would like to see back on the calendar. Being so close to Singapore, I think it often gets overlooked. It's a brilliant circuit created by Herman Tilke, who went on to design, amongst others, the Valencia, Bahrain and Istanbul circuits. More on that later. And it has played host to some of the most iconic off-track moments in F1, like Kimi Räikkönen eating a Magnum during rain stoppage and Rob Smedley telling massive Felipe babies stay cool, as well as the infamous Multi-21. We're heading back to Europe for our number 5, Imola. The Autodromo Enzo Erdino Ferrari, or Imola as is easy to say, is one of the circuits I would most like Formula 1 to return to, and it seems a lot of you guys agree. The circuit hosted Formula 1 from 1980 until 2006 and still features on the calendars of various sports car and touring car events, and even featured the 2015 Giro d'Italia cycle race. Like a lot of circuits, safety was an issue. It's hard to talk about Imola without talking about Tamburello. Tamburello was a flat-out corner that took the track past a concrete wall, on the other side of which was a river. There were numerous crashes at the site in the 80s and early 90s before, of course, Ayrton Senna crashed at the corner in 1994. The corner was never taken flat out again, with numerous changes introduced to lower the speed. It's still a fantastic circuit and came close to replacing Monza as the host of the Italian Grand Prix only a few years ago, but Monza secured a new deal and Imola was left waiting on the sidelines again. Next up is the first American circuit on this list, Laguna Seca. Imagine the 1989 US Grand Prix being held not on the streets of Phoenix City Plaza, but at the paved road racing track of Laguna Seca. That very almost happened, but the organisers decided the California track was too remote to host such a big event. Now it seems unlikely we'll ever see Formula 1 visit the track, which is a little disappointing, as no doubt watching F1 cars speed through the downhill corkscrew corner would be epic. It's a narrow track and would need widening for any decent F1 race, but it's perfect for the likes of World Superbikes and the IMSA Sports Car Championship, which both visit the track. Like I said at the start, a lot of these tracks aren't suitable for F1, and making them suitable for F1 would take away a lot of the character of the track. I think that would be the case with Laguna Seca, but the fact F1 probably won't go there doesn't take away from how great it is. At number 3 is the Mount Panorama circuit in Australia. There's a bit of a theme with a few of these races. I'll give you a clue. Yep, going up and down hills seems to be a big attraction when it comes to race circuits, and Mount Panorama is no exception. The track is located on a hill in Bathurst, called Mount Panorama and Walu, hence the name. On non-race day, it's open roads, though a strict speed limit is in place. On race days, it's host to some of the most exciting battles in sports cars. The 12 Hours of Bathurst and the Bathurst 1000 kilometres are the circuit's most popular events, but it's previously hosted the Australian Grand Prix, though never part of the F1 calendar, and the Australian Motorcycle Grand Prix. One Reddit user described Mount Panorama as the most complete and varied circuit in the world, and that definitely seems to be the case. It's probably not suitable for F1, but it's still an epic circuit. Number 2 is Road America. Road America is the place to watch all American racing, it seems. It appears almost everything but F1 is at the track. NASCAR, IndyCar, sports cars, even karting. And it's easy to see why. As one Redditor said, it's like the Spa of the US, with elevation change, high-speed turns and some twisting sections at the end of the circuit. It's a true test of road racing talent, which is encapsulated best in the Grand Prix at Road America, not the most creative name I know, which has been held since the 1980s. And last but very definitely not least, Istanbul. There are very few things I agree with Bernie Ecclestone on. I actually think I can name 2. The first is that Alan Prost is the greatest driver of all time. The second is that Istanbul Park is the best racetrack in the world. It contains one of the best corners in Formula 1, the Turn 8 Diabolica, a fast corner with 4 apexes that is exciting for both fans and competitors. Then there's the Turn 1 downhill left-handed, the site of multiple incidents in F1 and MotoGP. The track may only have hosted F1 for 7 years, but it was the site of some memorable races, including Felipe Massa's first F1 win and Lewis Hamilton's climb up from 16th to 2nd in the 2006 GP2 race. Unfortunately, dwindling attendance meant F1 stopped visiting this incredible track back in 2011. And there you have it. A rather sad note to end on, but hopefully one day F1 or some other series will return to Istanbul and bring it back to its former glory. But those are our top 10 tracks for Formula 1 isn't visiting in 2019. As I said at the start, there were so many more tracks that missed out on our top 10, so if we left out your favourite, shout out in the comments. We'll be running a poll to decide the topic for our next top 10 list on our Twitter, so give @FansMotorsport a follow and pick your favourite.